Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce a few good men to you tonight. A few good men, and the first of these good men is a man whose grandfather wrote poems in Swahili, whose father built the Dubai port, a port which today is one of the 5 most important ports in the world. A man who visited the city where I come from, Antwerp, in 2002, which is 9 years ago, when he was only 23 years old, and when I met him for the first time when we organized the Antwerp World Diamond Conference with then Al Gore. Al Gore, who was the former vice president of the United States, and he had not won the Nobel Prize yet. In 2002, ladies and gentlemen, there was no DMCC, there was no Dubai Diamond Exchange, there were no Jumeirah Lake Towers, the 53 towers and 11 still to build with a few thousand companies, and as I told you yesterday, 725 new companies who are registering every year, 2 a day. But the dream was developed in 2002 by the man I'm introducing you tonight, Mr. Ahmed bin Sulayem, the Executive Chairman of the DMCC.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the best introduction I've ever received. I don't know how I'm going to return you the favor of that, but I guess I'll go with the speech that we have prepared. President Mbeki, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The Dubai Multi-Commodity Center and the Dubai Diamond Exchange are proud to be hosting the WFDB President's Meeting and the WFDB African Summit. It's an honor to be able to bring together the leaders of the intelligent diamond community, from producers to consumers, under one roof and Al Tower. Before I carry on, I'd like to pay tribute to the political unrest that's happening in the Arab world and Japan, while Dubai continues to prosper and go from strength to strength. It is with great sadness we have been witnessing the unrest in the wider region, as well as the natural disaster that has recently inflicted Japan. Many lives have been changed, many lives have been displaced, and many lives have been lost. Our condolences go to all the families who have suffered. Within the last 10 years, Dubai has achieved to being the top 4 leading international diamond centers in the world. A position that many a couple of years back would think impossible. Located at the crossroads between Asia and Europe, and in the heart of the rapidly growing consumer market, Dubai has grown to become an important hub for the import and export of rough and polished diamonds. Thanks to its focus on modern transportation and logistic network, Dubai is also a major international re-export center. Notwithstanding Kime's observations, in 2010, Dubai saw record trading in diamonds with the total volume reaching 268.8 million carats, up by 66% from 2009, and the value doubling and recording $35.1 billion. I've said it in St. Peter, I'll say it again, the future of the diamond market and the global economy is in witnessing Africa being a superpower, which it deserves. The WFDB Summit couldn't have come at a better time. The United Arab Emirates and the African countries have enjoyed a close commercial and political relations for decades. The UAE is a firm believer of the importance of Gulf African Alliance and has always offered its support to African countries at different fronts and will continue to do so. Today it's been inspiring for me to listen to the leaders from Africa. Each speaker today and each representative spoke from their heart and with ambition and aspiration that really inspired me. And I'm really proud of you guys, so thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have your attention for another 15 minutes? Please. Thank you. As I said in the beginning of the evening, we want to introduce you to a few good men. This man has already his place in the history books. And I'm sure he didn't know that when at the age of 14, he joined the African National Congress Youth League. Or at the age of 17, when he was expelled from school for student strikes. Or at the age of 18, when he was involved in underground activities for the ANC, which was banned in 1960, now more than 50 years ago. Mr. Thabo Mbeki is more than just a good man. He served his country and his belief, and he traveled all around Africa to spread the message which he thought was the right one. He became the President of the Republic of South Africa on 14th of June 1999, and he served his country well. It was in these days that indeed the Kimberley process was also installed. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please for Mr. Thabo Mbeki.
And the Presidents of the Diamond Bosses, Your Excellencies, Ministers and Ambassadors, Honorable Matthew Yamba, Chairperson of the Kimberley process, and distinguished participants and guests. First of all, I'm honored to convey my thanks to the Executive Chairperson of the Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, the Honorable Ahmed bin Sulayem, and the Chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Dubai Diamond Exchange, Honorable Peter Meeus, who's just spoken, for inviting me to address this important WFDB President's meeting. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank both of them for taking the initiative to organize and host the WFDB African Summit meeting, which took place earlier today. I'm indeed very pleased that African government ministers and other African delegates put aside everything to attend the summit meeting. And I'm certain that all of us have already had occasion warmly to congratulate our friends from Dubai for their outstanding success in terms of developing Dubai within a relatively short period of time into one of the major players in the diamond industry. As I understand it, and indeed as the Honorable Sulayem has just said, the volume of trade handled by the Dubai Diamond Exchange last year has placed Dubai among the top 4 diamond trading centers in the world. It is a matter of common knowledge among us that Africa is a major source of diamonds, accounting for an estimated 65% of world production. It is therefore very natural that we as Africans should work further to strengthen our relations and our partnership with Dubai as a major diamond trading center, and therefore also with the United Arab Emirates as a whole. It is in this context that once again we would like to express our appreciation to our Dubai friends for hosting the African Summit, thus to place high on the agenda of this important meeting of the presidents of the diamond bosses matters relating to the diamond industry, which are of concern to us as Africans. In this regard, I could perhaps mention that during the years I served in the government of South Africa, the two governments of the UAE and our country engaged each other in conversation to see in what ways they could cooperate to encourage closer economic cooperation between the UAE and Africa. At the broader level, This was consistent with the vision projected by the Sirte Declaration issued at the conclusion of the October 2010 African-Arab Summit meeting. And that declaration affirmed the desire to promote relations between Africa and the Arab world, to boost cooperation between them and establish a strategic partnership. And as part of that cooperation, it emphasized the importance of establishing channels of promoting and ensuring bi-regional investment, developing capacity in seeking and identifying opportunities for investment, monitoring the investment environment, addressing all difficulties and obstacles facing investors, and widening the scope of present mechanisms to ensure investment in both regions. I mention all of this to make the statement that I'm convinced that the Dubai Multi-Commodities Center and the subsidiary, the Dubai Diamond Exchange, can play an important role in helping to translate the stream of African-Arab cooperation into reality. For a number of decades, because of what was happening on our continent, many in the world entertained a negative view about the future of Africa. However, I'd like to believe that changed and changing facts on the ground in Africa have, at the minimum, begun to dissipate that pessimism about the future of our continent. In this regard, it is important to mention the progress that Africa has made since the 1990s to confront the important issue of its democratization. I'm happy to say that today the majority of countries on our continent enjoy democratic systems of government, which has also helped us to address the important issue of peace and stability as democratic governance expands the space for the peaceful resolution of social conflicts and tensions. In this regard, I'm also pleased to say that the mere fact that today we can count the violent conflicts in Africa on the fingers of only one hand demonstrates the reality that in the main, Africa has become a continent at peace with itself. In this regard, I'm certain that many of us here would have taken note of the achievements the Sudanese people have made in terms of finally ending a civil war which raged for 40 years and progressing towards the establishment of relations of friendship and cooperation between the peoples of North and South Sudan, even as they live in two sovereign states. I'm also happy to say that these eminently positive developments relating to democracy, to peace and stability on our continent have been accompanied by a sustained turnaround in terms of the African economy. As I did at an African business conference only 11 days ago, I'd like to draw the attention of this important meeting to comments about the African economy made by the McKinsey Global Institute and others. And in its June 2010 report, entitled Lions on the Move, the Progress and Potential of the African Economies, McKinsey says that Africa's collective economy grew very little during the last 2 decades of the 20th century. But sometime in the late 1990s, the continent began to stir. Today, while Asia's tiger economies continue to expand rapidly, we foresee the potential rise of economic lions in Africa's future. And the key reasons behind Africa's growth surge were improved political and macroeconomic stability and microeconomic reforms. And to start, several countries halted their deadly hostilities, creating the political stability necessary to foster economic growth. And next, Africa's economies grew healthier as governments lowered inflation, trimmed their foreign debt, and shrunk their budget deficits. And finally, Africa's governments increasingly adopted policies to energize markets. And they say that although many governments still have a long way to go, these important first steps enable the private business sector to emerge. And this trend was confirmed by the 2010 African Economic Outlook, prepared jointly by the African Development Bank, the OECD, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. And that outlook says overall the African continent has shown a remarkable resilience to the global crisis. That while in many other regions output levels declined in 2009, growth in Africa remains stagnating for much of 45 years. Economic performance in Africa is markedly improving. And it said there is evidence that economic growth is accelerating and registering across several types of countries, and not just oil exporting and resource-rich countries. And the paper asks the question, is the growth failure in sub-Saharan Africa finally irreversible? And answers it by saying an upward shift in the recent growth rate suggests that the trend break may have taken place around the mid-1990s. And so confident is McKinsey about the growth prospects of the aggregate African economy that it predicts that African consumer spending will grow from $860 billion in 2008 to $1.4 trillion in 2020, while GDP will grow from 1.6 trillion to 2.6 during the same period of 12 years. And needless to say, this meeting will know that Africa's considerable natural resources, including diamonds, made an important contribution to the sustained economic growth and development that we've spoken about. And given the relatively firm foundation it has built for further economic growth and development, it is inevitable that the African continent will focus on what else it should do to accelerate that growth and development. And for a long time, Africa has looked forward to the time when it will cease to relate to the rest of the world as a producer and exporter of raw materials by adding value to the raw materials it produces. I say this to emphasize a proposition I'm certain you have heard many times. This is about the need for the diamond industry as a whole to work as practically as possible to assist Africa to progress towards cutting and polishing larger volumes of the rough diamonds it produces. Obviously, this would have to take into account the economic considerations which attach to this matter, including labor costs and access to the appropriate technology. In this regard, I'm certain that all of us have drawn the necessary lessons from what has happened over the years, resulting in the migration of value-adding processes from Israel and other areas to such countries as India and China. However, Africa's interests further to accelerate its economic development, and therefore its continuing focus on the challenge of the eradication of poverty by adding value to the diamonds it produces, were re-emphasized at the recent meeting in Botswana, held on the margins of the President's meeting of the International Diamond Manufacturers Association. And I'm certain that a positive response to Africa's call focused on helping to create the African lions of which McKinsey spoke, through adding value to its raw diamonds, would both benefit the diamond industry as a whole and reinforce the growth and development of the global economy. I'm equally certain that everybody concerned should take seriously Africa's views about the resolution of the current standoff in the Kimberley process, centered on the issue of some of Zimbabwe's diamonds. One of the critical points to bear in mind in this regard is the fact that the core objective of the Kimberley process, to end the practice of the use of illegally mined diamonds to fund and prolong deadly wars, was of primary concern to us as Africans first and foremost. Africa's determination in this regard is not diminished. I'm therefore certain that Africa, including the African Diamond Producers Association, would not support or advocate the production and sale of diamonds, especially African diamonds, contrary to the spirit and purposes of the Kimberley process. In this regard, I'm certain that it will not help anybody,
including you, the distinguished participants at this President's meeting, that the Kimberley process is politicized to advance objectives other than those originally agreed at the diamond capital of South Africa, Kimberley, which gave its name to the Kimberley process. I believe that it was exactly to ensure such verification of allegations, as well as due process, that a high-level delegation of the African Diamond Producers Association visited the Zimbabwe diamond fields earlier this month, led by the South African Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources, the Honorable Susan Shabangu, who is here with us this evening. I sincerely hope that the current dispute affecting this process will be resolved soon to avoid its breakdown, an eventuality which I'm convinced nobody would desire. Once more, I thank you most sincerely for inviting me to join you at this important meeting, and wish the World Federation of Diamond Bosses success as it works to achieve the further growth and development of the diamond industry, which would also benefit especially the millions of Africans who continue to live in degrading conditions of dire poverty. Thank you very much, and bon appetit.